Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about how to differentiate yourself in the application, but also the interview process. Most people know they should differentiate themselves throughout the application and interview process, and they have some good ideas, but largely it doesn't always land well, or it doesn't always provide the impact that they're looking for that actually differentiates them. So I'm going to go over a few things that might help you differentiate yourself throughout the application process. They've helped several students and members of Pursuit in the past. So first, let's talk about philosophy and mindset as it pertains to differentiation. Really what we're trying to do is we're trying to find ways to help the decision maker or the hiring team see us differently. We're often applying in a sea of sameness. Everyone looks the same. It's very hard to see who's different from who. Everyone's applying with their resumes. Everyone's resumes are structured the same. Everyone talks the same. Everyone has the same answers to the same types of questions. Everyone's asking the same questions. Everyone's approaching the application process largely the same. So what that means is it's more work for the hiring team to figure out who's different, who fits our mold, who fits what we're looking for. So the biggest idea behind differentiating yourself is the fact that you should do it with the intent to fit the mold of what they're actually looking for. And I know that sounds kind of hard, maybe a little crazy, because you're probably asking yourself, well, how do we know what mold they're looking for? Well, we're going to get into some things and describe processes and philosophies on how to uncover more detail around what they're looking for. But largely, what you want to be able to do is present yourself in such a way where it's a no-brainer that step one, they should talk to you, which is give you an interview. So that's the first no-brainer decision we want to give them, where you apply and present yourself in such a way where it would be silly for them not to at least give you the first interview with the hiring manager. So that's step one. We want to differentiate ourselves there. Step two is once we're in the interview process, we want another no-brainer decision for them where we make it abundantly clear, painfully obvious that we are a great choice for the role they have open. So the next no-brainer is it would be silly for them not to extend an offer after taking you through a series of interviews, right? Now, obviously, like each interview is a stage. We want it to be a no-brainer to go from one interview to the next. But as all these interviews culminate together, we want at the very end for them to say, look, it would be really silly for us not to send an offer out to Andrew or to whoever. Now, it sounds obvious and it sounds simple, but how do we actually go about doing this? All right, I'm going to talk through a few different strategies, and I'm going to start with the preparation advantage. We want to give ourselves an advantage in how we prepare for the application and interview process. So what most people do is they see a job online, and if they're interested in it, they either apply right away. They maybe get ChatGPT or some other AI model to adjust their resume and make sure it fits the mold of this specific job description. They don't understand is that the job description is actually articulating and describing maybe 20 or 30% of what the hiring team's actually looking for. So we're not really getting a great idea of what they're looking for in the role if we just look at the job description. Most people do that and then they'll submit a resume, or they'll go do a little bit of light research on the company. They'll go to their website, maybe Google them, look for some news articles, try to read about them. And largely what they're figuring out is like, what does this company do or who they are? And it ultimately ends in an application that gets ignored, right? We submit dozens, if not hundreds of applications a week and are just kind of hoping and praying that one of these comes back, and it rarely does. So let's start the preparation process early and make sure that we're stepping through the application process in such a way where we know exactly what we should be doing at every step and every stage. So to give yourself an advantage from a preparation perspective, we need to learn how to research roles and companies for the role we're pursuing, right? So when you go do research, what I want you to be thinking about is they're going to be asking me questions and they're going to have expectations for me based on the role not necessarily based on me just trying to work at this company. I need to prepare through the lens of the role. And if we're going after sales roles, then we need to prepare through the lens of being an SDR, a BDR, or an account executive. And so that means that should adjust the way we research. That should change the things that we're looking to learn in our research phase. Mostly, what you should know, especially if you're going after a sales role, is number one, what is the problem we solve for our customers? When we do our research, when we prepare, we should be preparing in such a way that we can have dialogue about the things we're learning, because that's what this is going to end up in. It's going to end up in a discussion, right? We're going to talk to hiring manager. We're going to talk to other people on the hiring team. It's going to end up in us sitting across from other people that are trying to gauge what we know. And the way they're going to do that is they're going to ask us a question. We're going to have to speak. So let's start practicing now. So in the preparation phase, specifically doing research on the role in the company, I want you to be able to answer this question and have a 5 to 10 minute discussion on it. What is the problem we solve for the customers we serve? And maybe it's many problems. Pick one, pick the biggest one, pick the most prominent problem that we solve for our customers, right? And then be able to have a pretty sizable or reasonable discussion on that problem. So what that requires is you have to be able to talk about not just what the problem is and be able to identify it, but also how long do our customers typically have this problem before we are made aware of it or before they reach out to us? Do they reach out to us, or is this the type of problem where they're constantly trying to fix it internally and we end up reaching out to them and helping them? Do other people, other partners, other organizations, other companies help us solve this problem with the customer? Why does this problem exist for our customers, right? What has to come about for this problem to arise, okay? Who else helps them solve this problem besides us? Who are our competitors? What other companies are helping them solve this problem, okay? When they do choose us, why? What is so great about us in solving this problem? What differentiates us as a company when it comes to solving this problem for our customers? So what I'm asking you to do is do research in such a way where you can have discussions on the questions I just asked you. That's the goal, right? When you can do that about the role and the company, I would say you're prepared to go to the next step. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So these are largely questions about the company. We also want to have questions and have familiarity with the role, right? So if we're going after account executive role, you should be able to answer things like, what are the expectations of me if I want to be successful as an account executive? Okay. What does it look like to not do well in this specific role at this specific company? How many people are on the team? Of those people, how many are doing well? How many are hitting their number? How many aren't? And then how many teams are there total? How big is this sales organization? How big is the entire organization? How big is the sales org relative to the entire org? Who do I typically work with internally? Do I have a solution engineer? Do I have an SDR? Do I have a BDR? Right? How do we work together? What is our relationship with the teammates we work with? Customer success, maybe product, maybe you have some consultants or some analysts, who knows, right? The idea is you should now also be able to have a discussion about the specifics of the role, right? If someone were to ask you these types of questions, you should have some answers. And most of these answers, not all of them I'll admit, but most of them, you can at least touch the surface and get these from public-facing information, okay? So one of the ways to differentiate yourself is just start by preparing differently. Start by doing better research that's more intentional and that allows you to actually have discussions about the things that you're learning. So that when you get into networking discussions with people that you're reaching out to at the company, or you get into the interview stage and they start asking questions about why would you be a good fit for this role, whether you have experience or not, you can recall the details and specifics of the problems that they solve and the challenges in the role and what it takes to be successful in the role. And you can start to pull that information and include it in the answers you give, which is going to help you look much more competent, and it's going to give you confidence as you answer questions, because they're going to hear that you've done your research. They're going to notice that this person comes prepared. That is one way, great way, to differentiate yourself in this market, is be more prepared than your peers. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's not that hard to be more prepared because most people really don't prepare. Most people don't do the required research to present yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about in the interview phase. Okay? So I'm going to continue on with more topics. I hope this one helps. This is prepare and use preparation as a strategic advantage in differentiating yourself in the application and interview process. Prepare well, be able to have discussions about the research and the things you're learning about the company and the role. Okay?